Well, good day, everybody. It's the 1st of November, a bit hard to believe, and we've been off the air for a couple of days. There's only Godspeed and Explorer out there, and I think those that are interested are going to check it out anyway. We've got a lot of things happening here in Cape Town, and we've got our captain's dinner tonight, a few important people coming and all the entrants as well. Then tomorrow night we've got a very large diplomatic reception here with all the diplomatic corps from all the consuls and so on in Cape Town invited, and some interesting news that we will break tomorrow night. We have the all-crew briefing in the amphitheatre tomorrow. If you're around the V&A waterfront, it's open to the public. It's going to be interesting for some, but important for the entrants. So that's tomorrow morning between 9:30 and 11:30. Although it won't take that long, we've just blocked that space. So it should start around about 9:30, and it'll continue for as long as it takes, maybe an hour. Then we've got a press conference here from 2 till 3. That'll be live as well on Facebook and YouTube. So watch out for that if you're interested in meeting some of the crews and so on. Hear the latest of our planning and preparation for the start on Sunday, which is it's going to start already. Boats haven't been here for that long, but nonetheless, they're getting busy, and we've still got a lot of official stuff. We've got safety inspections underway. Most of them are done now already. Lots of briefings. Georgie's been doing that, and everyone's got something on the go. And it'll all be on again very soon. So watch out for Sunday, 2 o'clock local time. That's midday UTC. And I think I'll get straight into it because, we're busy tonight. So I thought, okay, we better get one up now before anything else. So here's what's going on. And it's sort of good news as well in many ways. Godspeed's now heading south, which is what I thought they would do. If you remember the game plan a couple of days ago when we were last on, they need to get south. They've got an easterly wind, and that's perfect for that. So they could actually keep coming all the way down here, but the systems will change by then, and they'll probably angle across. The further south you get, the easier it's going to go towards Cape Town. So Godspeed at the moment doing 6.4 knots. They're not exactly heading to Cape Town, but they're getting into that all-important strategic position of way south for the final approach from the southwest. They've done 64 miles in the day, probably a bit more than that because that's running off the Rum Line course here, and they're sailing away from that. They've probably done a 120-mile day or something, and all pretty cool. Now, Explorer, and Mark knows exactly what he's supposed to do. He knows he's supposed to be down here, but the winds have effectively forced him up. He hasn't had any option. It would be a complete losing tack if he went over onto port tack, so he's just having to ride it to starboard, but at least they're moving and they're slowly getting closer to Cape Town. Doing 6.1 knots, 140-mile day, probably again a little bit more than that. And normally you'd say, this is not looking good because he's going to extend past and end up north of Cape Town, and that means, as you've all seen, if there's these strong southeasterlies, it's going to take him forever to get in. All right, so at the moment they've got only 455 miles to go. Godspeed's got 859. So Explorer's pulled out a little bit on Godspeed over the last 4 or 5 days. And so let's just look at the weather and see what they've got and where they're likely to go. So if I push this through 1 hour at a time, you can see that the sort of southeasterly wind, which is established, is going to get stronger. It's going to push up to 28 knots, gusting about 30, 35 maybe. I've got a phone call. Jeepers, don't you hate this? Jeepers. Hello? Yes, it is. Good. Could you just excuse me for a sec? I'll just shut this down. Where are we here? Sorry. Okay. Sorry about